Welcome, everybody. We're delighted to have you all here to join our Score Buddy webinar, Navigating the Future of Quality Assurance 2024 Predictions. Before we get started, you may be interested to see where our attendees and viewers are located. We have a great amount of people tuning in from the US, but also from the UK, South Africa, Canada, and locations around the world. We have a lot of colleagues and attendees joining us from the tech industry. Other industries include financial services, healthcare, telecommunications, and hospitality. I'd like to introduce you to our panel of speakers today. We have Stacey Parish from ID.me, who is a VP of Member Support, Neris Corfield, who's a contact centre consultant, Nate Brown, the founder of CX Accelerator, and David Bosang, our VP of Sales and Customer Success at ScoreBuddy.
Many thanks, Lara, and you're all very welcome to this webinar on 2024 predictions. So we are joined by a stellar panel today because there's lots of time zones represented. So we will give them the chance to introduce themselves. So first up, Neris. Hi, Neris.
Hi, David. My name is Neris Corfield. Yeah, I'm in the UK and I'm a consultant. Spent many years running contact centres in outsourcing, and for the last 9 years I've been judging contact centres and running audits on contact centres to support their CX and EX ambitions.
Brilliant. You're very welcome, Neris. And Nate.
Yeah, Nate Brown from Tennessee. I'm in the middle part of the state, or the Taylor part. So we have Dolly out to the east. We've got Elvis to the west. I'm in the Taylor Swift section, and love being here in Music City. Mandolin player, pickleballer, disc golfer, and definitely a student of this incredible work of customer experience. I did stand up a quality program in a major safety science company and learned so much through that cycle, and very excited to share today.
Well, you're very welcome, Nate. And we've already got a question in from Brian saying, where can he get your suit? We'll post that link up later on. Stacey, you're very welcome, Stacey. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. And thank you all for having me. So I am located in the US in Dallas, Texas, which Texas is considers themselves their own country. So it's a unique culture down here in the South. I'm excited to be here. I am the Vice President of Operations at ID.me, but prior to that, I have a long 25-year history in the contact center space, all in operations. I'm a total operations geek. Some of you may recognize some of the logos like Home Depot and Equifax. I joined ID.me about 18 months ago. They're a startup. They work with identity verification, and I'm just excited to join them to help them with scaling and introducing some new technology. So we're at some really early phases of that process. So I'm totally geeked out by it, and I love this topic. So you'll have to shut me up because I'll talk about it forever.
Excellent. Well, look, the energy is fantastic. And as I say to the audience, we've got a great panel here. So there is a box in the top right-hand corner of your screen with a question mark in there. Feel free to post as many questions as you like. We'll introduce them into the discussions as we're going through. And also, we're going to have you answer a number of polls as we go through the discussion topics. The first discussion topic is just upon us, so you'll be answering a poll in a number of minutes. And so onto that first discussion. So the discussion is about how can we bridge the moat that's around customer service agents. So customer service agents, they have the opportunity to be a shining light in the organization because they're powered by the access that they have to the voice of the customer, but often they're set apart from the business with a moat around them. So let's just get a view from the audience there in terms of a poll. Lara, can you launch a poll there?
Yeah, of course. Our first poll is, how do you bridge the moat around customer service agents? So I'll leave the poll open for a couple of moments there. You can get your votes in.
What a great question.
Okay, so 37% of the audience have voted for enhanced training, 27% for company-wide communication tools, and 37% for employee empowerment initiatives.
Pretty even split.
Yeah, it's very even across the board. And as you say, all of the above certainly is reflective of. It was interesting to see what people would plumb for as their first preferred, and it was neck and neck between a number of items. So, Nate, you're first up. How best can we help agents to make the most of their gifts and talents in support of the business?
I love the way you say that, David. I mean, these are remarkably talented individuals. I like to consider the support worker to be a mini marriage officiant. I mean, they're bringing together this wonderful relationship of the client's true need. They speak the language of the customer, not what the customer said, what they actually need. They can get down to that surface, past the surface, and really understand that. And all the capabilities and all the information of the business, they bring these two things together and marry them in a way that nobody else can. So, I mean, these are remarkably talented individuals. And so often we put them in a little island. I love that moat language, David. And we kind of make them into a ticket taker instead of this strategic force inside the organization where we're learning and growing through these great customer interactions, and they're getting to represent the voice of the customer to make the organization smarter through these customer interactions. So I love when I see organizations that rally around this individual, not only to equip them with all that information that they need to perform the marriage ceremony. I mean, that's like step one, but then embrace them as that strategic force that they are, asking them, hey, what are you learning through these customer interactions? How can we serve these folks even better? And it goes from that compliance idea around quality. Are you checking all these boxes? Are you doing all the things we said? Versus asking that strategic question, how can we make these interactions even better? What can we do for you that would make you even more capable in this really important role that we have? That's a cool question to ask.
Mm. So it's actually quite a open question. Where can we do better? But also it speaks to the fact that the agent is a great source of innovation for the business because they're seeing everything real time. So they can contribute immediate information and innovative ideas to the management and to the business. So there, it's an extremely powerful source because I know Jack Welch doesn't get quoted all the time, and sometimes he's very much out of fashion as a business leader, but he was an early expounder of walk the floor and ask people what they think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he got a great response once because he asked somebody on the shop floor, do you have any ideas to improve the business? And the person on the shop floor said, for 20 years, you've used my hands, you've never used my brain. And I
Ouch.
can give you, yeah, so it's a case of, there's extremely, as you say, talented and smart people at
Yeah.
the end of the customer support line. And we just need to ask them how to um, create ideas to improve the business. So many thanks, Nate. Nera, same question to yourself. How best can we help agents to make the most of their gifts and talents in support of the business? And in truth, how can we liberate them from outdated definitions of success?
Outdated definitions of success. Yeah, it's all really interesting thinking, and I think fundamentally there's that what you've just spoken about there, David. I've got a feeling that Stacey goes and sits and puts her headset on and listens to advisors, and
Mm.
I think that culturally the C-suite engaging with the front line and spending time sitting and listening and gaining a much greater empathy for how vital those agents are in terms of representing the brand and being their ambassadors and being their eyes for failure demand as well, that they can sort of step back into the business. But specifically, you know, I do a lot of reviews on metrics and who's got what metrics, who's reporting what up to the board. Things like AHT still exist, punitive metrics like adherence still exist.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, they those have a place in the back office for the planners, but they absolutely shouldn't be bearing weight down onto the advisors. Same as like wallboards telling you how many calls are in the queue. What are you expecting the advisors to do about that situation? It really drives me absolutely insane. So that's all stuff of the past. So now looking forward, I think if you really want to liberate them, you talk about ESAT, you have this sort of you said we did mentality within your organization, and you look at CSAT, and that is pretty much it. That's all you need to focus on.
beautifully simple and easy to remember. And I'd say for all of the audience on the webinar at the moment, if you are in the C-suite, obviously you're down on the shop floor listening to the agents and getting their feedback. But equally, if you're part of a team, invite your C-suite down to participate, because do you know what? They're dying to. That's the secret. They actually do want to, but their to-do lists get in the way. Stacey, what are you doing at IDMe to increase the visibility of the impact of customer support agents?
Yeah, great question. I love what Nate and Nara shared, because so often, I agree, folks forget that our customer service agents, they are the closest to our customers than anybody else in the entire company. And they're often overlooked for those insights and just that connection. So a couple of things we're doing at IDMe, and the poll was great because I agree with Nate. There should be a all of the above option, because there's just tons of stuff that we're doing at IDMe, and I think many folks do to try to tackle this. So one of the things that we're doing at IDMe today is we are gathering compelling stories from our agents on interactions that they're having, and the stories that are really connecting our entire organization and externally, because we use it externally for marketing, with our missions and values. And a great example is, we're in ID verification. We had an agent just recently had just a heartfelt story around helping a homeless individual who is having equity and access issues, right? And so they were really struggling with how they were going to use just the ecosystem we have today to identify themselves to get unemployment benefits. And so to hear that from an agent, and to have that agent, we record it, we share it internally, we try to push things into social media, on a website to really connect it, is bridging that agent experience and just reminding folks how those agents are connecting with our members. Another example, Naris mentioned it, it's that connection beyond what is just average handle time and managing metrics, but impact. So we have a Slack channel that is open to our entire organization, dedicated to recognition. And we make it a point on the contact center side to actively engage that channel with meaningful impacts that have happened in the contact center space. So connecting revenue generation, connecting cost generations, reminding the organization that we're just not taking tickets, to Nate's point, that we are supporting the margins. We're part of the entire system. And I think lastly, what Naris mentioned as well, and I love going last, right? Because they make such great points, I get to hook into them. So Naris mentioned the ability to pull information from the floor, like that walk around version of that we have in our organization, is a frontline feedback intake process. So anyone in our organization at the frontline is able to drop in, process ideas, challenges they're having in the system. And every week we are, as a cross-functional team, going through all of that inputs, and we are making process decisions and system prioritization decisions based on some of that feedback. I think the key is also then recognizing when that happened. So bridging that. These are the examples that came from the front line, and that's driving improvements. One of our core values is make something better every day. So we really use that process to live that value.
It's
Can
just
can I
listening.
bounce in on that, David? I think that's so
Yeah,
cool,
Nate.
Stacey. And I've got one amazing contact center leader that I'm working with, and it was kind of overwhelming, like how to get started to do this and honor the agent as a mechanism to be the voice of the customer. So we came up with this simple VOC3. Just every day, just you as a customer service worker, you get one thing that you're learning through your customer interactions that's a friction point, that's like a challenge that could be addressed. One thing that's awesome, where you're making great connections and you're serving people really well. And then one just larger theme or trend that you're learning where you can help to educate the business and educate your peers. And it's just getting people in that mentality. And Stacey, you're doing such a great job of that. I love it.
I was about to add in on top of that, Nate, and thanks for coming in. The stories that agents can tell about the human impact that the customers are experiencing bridges every gap between junior and senior, and between the customer support team and the rest of the business, onwards into the finance team. Because as you say, themes that are very present at the moment are vulnerability, concerns on cost of living, the impact on customers, the impact on their well-being, And agents can tell that story in a way that goes beyond complex pricing queries or service down queries or the typical transactional things that don't attract the ear or the eye. But actually, the human impact is something that I think you've really touched upon, in that it brings people to the attention of the issues that are happening and elevates the customer support team as being a true holder of the torch for the customer. So it's a great example. We have a question coming in here in terms of, like the comments which are being introduced speak to the fact that the customer service team is being seen as a cost center, and all of the aspects that they want to introduce require business cases. So who would like to take a business case question in terms of what is the best winner in a business case for return on investment that gets a customer support query through into the finance department? Who would like to take a business case question?
I'm happy to if you want. So I do a lot of
Thanks,
business
Doris.
case modeling. It's tough. It's really tough because some of it is not so, robust. And so there's a bit of conjecture that goes on with the assimilation of a business case. But you really need to understand the cost to serve, and you need to understand your cost to serve against different channels. You need to understand all of your of driving competency, and you need to understand the value of then the customer interaction and managing that effectively. And you also really need to understand your cost of inefficiencies. So at the moment, people are laboured and burdened with far too many inefficiencies due to tech stacks coming together and processes not being elegant enough. So there's lots of elements that come into modelling it. And you need to get a collective view that, yes, that's a very sensible, simple approach to determining the costs and the value. And then, of course, ROI will net out of that. So, yeah, it's not super simple, but the FD, yeah, they do look at it as a cost center. They do tend to look at it as a line on a spreadsheet. So they're the first people that should go out onto the calling floors when they join, and once a month, and start really appreciating the value. So
I think that's great advice. Moving on into topic two. Thanks, Neris, for that.
Great
So
answer.
topic two is going to be, how do we balance psychological safety with financial pressures? So just as a bit of an introduction before we go into the poll, CXM cited a 2022 study from Personnel Today that 8 out of 10 customer service agents are feeling the mental strain. So
Wow.
customer service teams are constantly under tight budget scrutiny and pressure, but yet they're also the team that it's closest to the customers. So it's such a delicate balance. So Lara, can you run a quick poll to get a view from the audience on this topic?
Of course, we have another fantastic question here. How do you help your agent wellness? So again, I'll leave this open for a few moments and you can make your choice. Okay, so we have 20% of the audience voting for increased mental health resources, 52% going for flexible work hours or remote options, 16% for recognition and rewards programs, and 12% for training and skill development.
Those are very interesting results in terms of a clear winner could almost be interpreted as sometimes don't have them in work, in terms of the flexible working options and hours to enable people to decompress away from the workplace. It was quite a big view. So in terms of analyzing this and working through the questions, Neris, what's your view on driving agent engagement whilst also driving operational efficiency?
right, it's a really tricky balance, isn't it? It is a tricky balance, and I think that it's really interesting, this psychological, this cognitive load, psychological safety. Really, it's so heartening in essence to see that the mental health of the advisor and agent community has come to the forefront since since the advent of COVID, is the reality, when those pressures. And now we're obviously seeing, since the Great Resignation, we're still seeing employment becoming really tricky, retention being really tricky. So brands have to look after their agents and have to make sure that they're engaged and ready to be servicing their customers. And the way that it is all back to that ROI question, right? It's all about ensuring that you understand that they are a significantly valuable resource that you have to support, and ensure that they're feeling really enabled and empowered to support the customer and do their job effectively, because all too often that there's a lot of gaps in that, especially when the agents are working from home. So there's loads of ways in which customers are doing that. I'm seeing less nurses now, less mental health nurses in organizations, but seeing a lot more daily health checks going on, and MI coming in, so intervention from HR and people management can come in. So it's a really tricky balance, but some cultures are doing it beautifully well.
Big word that stood out, it was the word belonging, in that they want to belong, to feel part. And if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, obviously it's Wi-Fi at the start, as everybody jokes about it, and it's safety and sustenance. Belonging is a key point before you move into becoming the best that you can be. So I personally remember the first time I interviewed somebody and said, "Here, what motivates you?" And they said, "Being part of a team really motivates me. I get very engaged by that." And it really spoke to me about the importance not to forget that belonging to a team itself is a very strong and powerful driver towards engagement and performance. So many thanks, Neris, for the contribution there. Stacey, what's your perspective on balancing operational efficiency with the well-being of the agent? Do you think the customer notices?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think this is the battlefield. This is where the collision between operational metrics and doing the right thing for your customer kind of comes in, and that provides such an amazing stress on your front line when they want to do the right thing, but they have these external pressures, when just scenarios are out of their control that complicate the call, or system issues that are driving this delays. Just really feels just on top of your agents when they're trying to manage a scorecard and drive to a particular number. I think your customers are going to feel that, because they're going to end up being rushed. They're going to end up being transferred around. Like, they know when an agent is just checking the boxes and trying to hurry along. For me, I think balancing this efficiency with wellness is really understanding what your agents need in order for them to service your customer, right? You need to understand when the ecosystem is working for your agent, it's working for your customer. Customers are going to recognize that. They know. I mean, how many times have we been on a call where we heard, well, the system won't let me do that, right? Like, I'd like to help you, but the system said that I have to do this. Like, those are the challenges, I think, that impact over and over again our agents' well-being, right? That's the stress and the pressure. So one of the things that I look at when I'm trying to understand the ecosystem like that is, where can we help provide some efficiency to the frontline, like guided workflows that help them navigate through the process. Really understanding the difference between presenting information and even predicting what information an agent may need versus them having to know where it is, or go find it in like a bottomless pit of a knowledge base where that pressure of like, I need to know where to find this, I have all this information, really just starts weighing on the day-to-day. And then last, I think another great example is that we can, as operators, look for to help our frontline is, where are these repetitive tasks? Like, when an agent, again, is not using their brain, right? They're not thinking, they're just processing through these repetitive tasks. They're not fulfilled, they're not engaged. That's, consistently hear that feedback. Anybody can be doing this. And it just drives, again, those manual processing time. So find efficiency in repetitive tasks, not just the pressure of agents need to go faster. So I think as operators, we got to look beyond outlier management, performance management of our current process, and look how the ecosystem is helping our agents drive efficiency.
You're getting a lot of positive reaction from the audience, and particularly in the comment of, ensuring that the system doesn't block the agent from supporting the customer, because wow, then the customer is surely going to notice. Nate, what's your advice on how to support an agent to become a challenger who
Oh,
offers value to both the customer and their employer?
that word challenger. And let me jump back on Stacy's real quick. I mean, I remember Leslie Ofelhaven and Jenny Dempsey at an ICMI conference years ago. They started a mini movement under the hashtag free to serve or free to help. And it's that idea of are we allowing our people to be what they want to be to the customer? Are we putting up these hurdles and making it impossible for them to be that great service professional they want to be? That idea of are you free to serve in the ways that you would want? I love just asking that question and finding that movement. So this word challenger, David, I mean, in my hermeneutics class in college, when there was repetition, there's something there. You got to dive deeper into that. And the thought leaders are talking about this challenger word. There's something special here. We have Kim Scott, that idea of care personally so we can challenge directly, that radical candor model. It's so good as coaches. I've never found a better model, and it's so applicable in this quality realm. I mean, going back to the challenger sale and the challenger customer by Matt Dixon, and talking about this person who can awaken curiosity and guide the customer to their definition of success. That is the challenger that wins the day, whether it's a customer interaction or a sale or what. But then, Simon Sinek was really jumping on the circle of psychological safety, which I love his stuff on it. But if you go back to the original 4 quadrants of psychological safety, number 1, inclusion safety. So, I mean, David, it's just what we were talking about a second ago, that idea of belonging. And by the way, I've got to recommend a new resource that I just started reading last week called The Business of Belonging. Unbelievable book talking about fostering community inside the organization and extending that to our customers, which I just think is the most strategic thing we can be doing right now. So that idea of inclusion safety, am I a part of this team? Is somebody here trying to put a knife in my back? Or can I focus forward and not get in that mentality of self-preservation? Can I focus outward? Then we have learner safety. Can I ask questions here? Am I safe to grow and learn and become the person I want to be? I mean, as quality professionals, this is huge because you set such a tone in the quality program of are you safe to learn? Or really, do you just need to be so focused on just doing it right, getting through the scorecard and checking boxes? Or is this a place where you can be curious and we get to work together to figure out how we can serve the customer even better? It's a collaborative process. It's a learning process, and we're doing that together versus that idea of I'm right as your quality coach and you're wrong, and you better get it more right. You better be more accurate and more compliant. So it's just a totally different way of thinking about it and embracing this customer service worker. Then contributor. Now I get to start pushing my ideas up and challenging the organization. And that is stage 4. It's challenger safety. That's what we're trying to work toward. Are individuals that care so much about what we're doing and the experience that we're creating that they are challenged. I remember hearing a story from Stacy Sherman talking about being on a subway, and there was these two people on the subway talking about, if it was about a grocery store, it was a retail store. If we change the item here, I think that person might find it a little easier, and this would be a better experience for them because I think they're walking down this way. And she's like, wow, what is going on here? These people are so excited. They're off the clock talking about this retail experience. And so asking them, hey, what are you inside this organization? Turns out it was Trader Joe's, and it was 2 entry-level cashiers that are just empowered to think about this stuff and be challengers because they know when they come back to work the next day, they can share these ideas and they're going to be heard. And they're going to be embraced for the fact that they are dreaming up this better experience collaboratively. So, I mean, that's what we're trying to create through our quality program.
Well, you're getting a huge reaction from the audience, and obviously with the challenger, where the colleague is supported to teach, tailor, and take control. It requires a manager to embrace that sense of openness. And it's very interesting, the question we've got in that I'll read out. And Nate, I'll probably point the question to yourself. What are your tips to create an open work culture? Because what you're speaking to is that, the experience of an open work culture does have 2 colleagues from Trader Joe's talking about layout on the way home. Like, That's just phenomenal. Well, what are your
So
tips to creating that?
I'm going to dump a few resources on you, and I apologize because I'm going to be chippy here just to get, but you got to start with TOMO, total motivation. So there's this phenomenal framework called Prime to Perform, and you determine where the intrinsic motivation is coming from. Is it the good type that makes people come alive in their work? So that's play, curiosity, and excitement. It's potential, it's purpose. These are the things that foster that excitement and that energy, that curiosity. On the other side, you've got inertia, things that suck out the motivation. You've got becoming a victim of fear or negative, bad relationships in the workplace, the broken circle of psychological safety, the pressure, the guilt that can enter. Sometimes we become a victim of our own jobs and we don't even see or feel it happening. And just over the time, it happens in these ways. And so identifying the presence of that negative motivation versus the other side of the scale, fostering that curiosity and excitement, you've got to have an idea of that total motivation factor. So that comes from that Prime to Perform framework. But then trust is everything. If you don't have that foundation of trust, you can't build. There's nothing to build. So that's classic Patrick Lencioni, 5 dysfunctions of a team. Understand if there's an absence of trust. Huh. So you got to do, and then the third one, as you work through that process, radical candor, that Kim Scott resource that I mentioned. Can you care personally and earn the right then to challenge directly? Because if you don't have those good peer-to-peer relationships, if the trust is not there, then you can't jump to that accountability zone and that open culture zone where you're fostering each other to greatness. You just can't do it.
Mm, very true. Any part? Well, first, there's a quick question in, Nate. If you could, before the end of the webinar, just cite the name of the book on
Yes,
belonging that you were mentioning.
absolutely.
So just take a word out so we can make sure we mention that later on. And then any final views, Neris or Stacey, on the topics that we've been discussing so far before we move on?
Stacey, you
I
go.
just want to cover. Oh, sorry, Neris.
No, I
I just
said
want
you go.
on Nate's reference to 5 dysfunctions of the team. Huge fan of that methodology. And I think one thing that he didn't mention that is important in this is the collective goals. So when you're frontline, your leadership, when you're all working towards a collective goal, there's that willingness to share ideas and drive forward because everybody wins.
Hmm.
And Neris, any thoughts on your side?
No, I do think that is so really key, and I think it is all about this communication and effective communication, and them feeling like they're very much working towards something, and they are part of something. So no, I just echo the things that have been said, and there's some real practical ways that you can actually execute on some of those not ideas and notions, but I don't think, given where we've got left to go, I think we'll save those for tips potentially.
Sounds good. Okay, so Lara will share on the chat the link to the book because Nate has sent that around. All right, an elephant has just walked into the room, and it's the AI elephant. So the use cases for AI is increasing within the customer service world day by day. So we'll share a link which is 20 use cases of generative AI in customer service. But let's just run a quick poll to get your view on AI within the customer service world.
Okay, so our last poll for the webinar today, everyone. Where will AI most impact contact centers in 2024?
Hmm.
Okay, so it looks like we have an even split across all the options. So 33% going for increased agent efficiency, 33% for enhanced customer experience, and 33% for workforce optimization.
Perfect. And I think about we still had a lot of attendees to vote. I think that kind of says that the vote is split. We're still finding out. So let's get the views from the expert. First up, Neris, what's your view on the impact of AI in the contact center? Will 2024 see faster adoption?
Yes, 100%. I judge best application of AI. I judge lots of tech vendors on their AI roadmaps and their functionality in play, and it has been an extraordinary year. It has been night and day because of the advent of generative AI. I mean, the reality is generative AI has been around for about 12 years, but it's been brought. Sam Altman's brought it into the human consciousness, and businesses and specifically customer service teams are seeing real impact. I think things like being able to auto summarize emails and then provide the agents with that view of what those summaries should, that email response should look like, is amazing. I think the bit that really supports the agents more is around the knowledge assets. So Stacey was talking about those horrible, let's hope that those horrible knowledge management solutions have gone forever by the end of 2024, and we are literally just in this world where speech to text is then delivering assets to the agent that are able to serve the customer. So I think 2024 is super exciting. I love the elephant in the room. I'm really thrilled by everything it's doing for the agent experience.
Well, it's here for keeps, isn't it? It's and to
100.
block the metaphor, the genie is out of the bottle. So,
Mhm.
Nate, how do you feel AI will influence the performance of agents, or will it replace them?
Oh yeah, okay. Well, you gave me that little twist there, David. Okay. No, I mean no. I am so convicted on the reality of the agent being even more valuable in this era. I mean, let's use an Iron Man metaphor. I'm a big Iron Man fan. Look at Jarvis and the ability for Jarvis to be an effective guide for Iron Man. He's just there. And he's proactively taking care of all these variables on behalf of Iron Man. So as a brand, as a customer service entity, we get to embody that idea of Jarvis to our customers, right? And we get to deflect and automate and be present to help guide Iron Man on his journey to ultimately save the universe. But there's something huge missing from Jarvis, and that is that human connection. I mean, really, the guide to Iron Man is Pepper Potts. It's Pepper Potts because she puts the why in it. She awakens the heart of Iron Man to care and to desire and to be motivated and to be curious and creative. Ha! So all these variables can get taken care of so that we don't have to focus on the compliance, on the transactional, and we get to focus on the amazing ways that we can cultivate meaningful connection. I heard at a Frost and Sullivan show recently is like, how do we compete against AI? And the speaker was like, no, stop. Why would you do that? You're getting to use AI to do all these great things that AI does really well, and then humans can do what they do really well. And focus the attention on that. Let your agents be Pepper Potts. Stop trying to make them be Jarvis. And when we get that, when we embrace that, that's when both get to do their job to make the overall customer experience as great and seamless as possible.
Fantastic, great storytelling, Nate. That's memorable. People are going to remember that.
If they've seen Iron Man.
Stacey, Stacey, how do you blend AI within your operations at ID.me? What are your plans?
Yes, so interesting enough, ID.me has got very sophisticated AI. It's the secret sauce behind fraud identity because we're identity management, right? So there's a lot happening in that automation space, fraud engines, rules engines, but nothing really in the contact center space yet. So we're really behind the curve there. And I know all of you watching at home are probably wondering, how long is it going to take for the sun to get out of the frame of my WebEx? I am chasing this. So my apologies. Super sun, it's driving me nuts. So to get to my point, on the contact center side, we're at the beginning of that journey, right? And I've worked for many organizations. And I'm always surprised, you get into a big organization, you expect that they are very far along on some of these journeys, and really they're not. There's very few organizations that I've worked with that are at the end of this automation journey in the contact center. All of us are on some type of journey. And this is a great example here at ID.me. So we are really in the beginning phases of looking at our chatbot. So right now our chatbot is just referencing our help center directly, that content. We want to move into it being more predictable. So it can look at your profile, it can look at some of the web journey and then predict some of that content. And then finally get into that generative where it's actually making decisions on its own on how it's going to guide our users through that process, because the majority of our workflows and product is online, right? So we don't want to force our users to leave their digital experience and work with an agent. So we think that is going to help out tremendously there. And then back in the contact center space, we are actually looking at Score Buddy. So we're working currently with Score Buddy to proactively use natural language processing to review end-to-end interactions so that our quality assurance agents can target in particular situations that we either want to measure adaptability, process changes, the experience, or really just gain some business insight so that we can work upstream in that web experience.
Fantastic. Certainly the AI elephant has arrived and it's not going to leave. But as we're moving on into 2024, let's get to prediction time. So Nate, you already have your prediction hat on, but let's everybody else put their predictions hat on. And for the audience, feel free to contribute your predictions via the question box as we go through. So Neris, you're first up. What's your prediction for 2024?
Well, I could talk about AI again, but I think specifically in terms of quality, I think the way an organization runs its quality program is very indicative of how strong their people culture is and their customer experience focus. And because of the advent of AI, I think my main prediction specifically around quality, which is so key, is that we're going to shift. Insights are going to come so much more readily, and the team leaders who have done just that scorecard management is going to turn into much more of that coaching culture. So I really see that then in turn creates a much more psychologically safe environment for the advisors. So I think AI is really going to unburden that legacy scorecard creation and measuring and listening to calls and just make them into like, how do I help you help the customer better and feel better about your interactions and your readiness to serve customers.
Love that.
Yeah, a very solid prediction. Nate, what about yourself? What's your 2024 prediction?
Yeah, my first soft one, as mentioned, we're compliance QA is no more, and it shouldn't have been for a while. We have better capabilities now to automate the compliance mentality around. I mean, and just we just have it. It's there. So we focus on what Neris just said. So that is that prediction. The bigger prediction to me as I dream about this and as I work with different contact center leaders with really modern QA programs now, QA is not a function of the contact center. It should not be just in the customer service center, because it's this idea of how do we, what QA is really asking is how good are we at defending our brand promise? How effective of a guide are we to understand the customer, their needs, and to navigate them there? And there's stakeholders across the business that are helping as a guide, as a proactive guide in that process. So quality becomes an organizational focus of asking that question of how good of a guide are we together? Huh. And that's where you start to do quality together, because that's what the customer journey is. It's this. It doesn't exist in the customer service department. My goodness, why are we so micro focused on compliance and just customer service, and the rest of the org has a free pass on that? Like it's not as important in those parts of the journey. No, training, implementation, sales, like these stakeholders that have a huge impact on that customer journey, that question, that quality concept of how can we be making these interactions even better, that needs to be done together across the business. And that's what great organizations will start to do.
I heard a great interview with the CEO of Airbnb, and he was asked by the interviewer, Scott Galloway, why did they not do a AI trial at the same time as everybody else was starting the AI trial? And the answer was so revealing. The answer was because we needed to remap our customer journey first, because he could see all of the failure points in their customer journey. And if they just put AI on that straight away, it wouldn't achieve anything but customers who just get upset faster. and agents who'd be more frustrated because processes wouldn't be
Well
fixed.
said.
So it was a brilliant answer by a brilliant person, the CEO of
Mm.
Airbnb, that
Well
before
done.
going into the AI trials, look back at your customer journey, map it against your customer service tickets, see where the red spots are, and fix them, and
Mm.
then move on to automation, because then your agents will get onto the value exercises that you've all spoken about.
Love it.
Stacey,
So
leaving the best for last, what's your prediction for 2024?
yeah, I'm excited to give you my prediction because I feel like it's going to happen.
It's a
But
big one.
before I do
It's a
that,
big
I
one.
really want to hook in on what Nate said. So I think Nate is onto something. This year at IDME, our journey, our quality assurance journey, has moved us from quality being on our agents balance scorecard as one of the qualifier metrics for incentives and just overall performance improvement. We have removed it from that scorecard this year, and we have
Yes.
adopted a customer view where quality assurance, who is our customers for quality assurance? And our customers are the operations team, right? So we want to help
Mm.
them, new hires, understand where they are having some challenges. But the training organization is a customer. Our marketing department is one of our customers. Our product team and their IT folks who are working with the technology is one of our customers. So we've
Love it.
adopted this customer view, and going into 24, we are going to read out to each one of our customers in our monthly business reviews on what we're doing to provide them the insights that will make them be successful. So we're
Wow.
really excited about that transition. We're in, an evolution of that, but that is where we're going. So I think Nate's onto something.
Smart.
Um, so to jump into my prediction, so quickly, my prediction, if you look at what COVID did for us in the contact center space by breaking down the barriers of our remote workforce, and the advancements and just really just the amount of acceptance the gig workforce has with Ubers and DoorDashes, and like there's a million new business models that are breaking out into this gig workforce where folks get to work on demand. They get to choose their schedule. They get to use technology to help them manage their personal life and their work life. That demographic, those individuals who are working in that workforce, are typically a huge overlap in what contact center demographics looks like. So I think the contact center is starting to compete with that gig workforce, and you can now see that in our recruiting numbers. So talking to my colleagues, talking with my own BPO partners, recruiting is really a challenge for the last 18, 24 months, and it's only getting worse to bring in-house these resources. So my prediction is that next year and in the upcoming years, there's going to be a lot of focus on technology in that contact center space that'll start enabling BPOs, particularly, to start offering more of that gig. And I think there's going to be a demand, not only because we need to get the workforce, but I think once the business owners start seeing the benefit of that, they're going to start demanding that as well, because there's a lot of cost benefit to driving high occupancy, using an on-demand workforce only when you need it. So I
Yeah.
think the supply or the demand is going to be there, but the supply is not there yet because we're not technically ready for it. But that's where our investments are going to start going.
It really links in with the predictions that are coming in over the chat in relation to the challenges in recruitment, the focus on trying to retain talent, the
Mm.
focus on training so that you grow your own and you keep your own. Certainly the messages that are coming through, there's obviously a lot of AI predictions coming through as well, but I do think that's actually a very on point prediction regarding the gig economy. Let's see how it manifests itself. We'll be back here in a year's time, Stacey, and we'll just check the employment statistics to see what's coming through. But I think we can all identify with that as a trend, which we can see already. My prediction from last year was about the introduction of the 4-day working week. I think yours
Mm.
supersedes that much more pragmatically, because the 4-day working week doesn't spread to every industry, whereas gig economies, as you said, does. Folks, Neris, Stacey, Nate, many thanks for your incredible and insightful and educational comments. Really appreciate it. Lara, just hand it across to yourself to close up.
Thanks, David. So again, just like to thank our fantastic panel, Nurse, Nate and Stacey, for their brilliant topics of conversation, and to thank everyone for attending. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did and it was of value to you, and have a great rest of your day or evening wherever you are. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.